Sex, love, and money. Sex, love, and money. Sex, love, and money.
All right, E. We are back.
We are back. We are back. How you doing? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah. How about yourself, man? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We want to give everybody out there, we want to say happy Memorial Day weekend.
That's right.
And welcome to the Money Sex Gen X podcast. This is actually episode number 7, and it's our season finale. How about
God
that?
Hour. The God Hour. We're going to rest on the 7, the God Hour, huh?
That's right. We're going to rest on number 7. And it is your host with the most, the man with the plan, the chap that made it clap.
Hey!
Mr. Eric McLoyd. And I am here with my co-captain. He's on the scene with me, Mr. Big Stu. Peace, brother. How you doing today? I see you got your seed with you.
Yeah, I got my little baby girl, 1 of 1, 1 of 2. She didn't want to go to sleep, so she wanted some little airtime, low key. She asking for it.
All right.
So,
all right. How you doing?
This is what this is about right here, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep.
Love
been introduced to the world, baby mom. That's right.
So, how was your week, man?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you the same thing, man. Good week, man. It was a good week. It was a lot of work, but it was a good week, and you know, it went by really, really slow, man. Now, I'm starting to feel like my days are starting to blend together. That wasn't the case before, but now it feels like, yeah, man, what day is it? You know what I mean? So it was a really slow week, but I'm also glad of that because that means I'm in command of my time. Yeah. That's how I feel about that, man. But how was your week?
My week was pretty good. I think I'm in the opposite of what you're describing. So at the beginning of this quarantine situation, I did feel like the days were kind of bleeding together. I'm starting to feel a little bit of separation between the days now, which is cool. I guess we're kind of getting in the groove, getting in the routine.
Yeah.
So a couple of interesting news stories. One of them I just saw, I think as early as this morning. Did you catch the little clip about Joe Biden?
No, what happened with Joe Biden? That he got a female, he's vetting the female vice president or something?
I think he is doing something similar to that, but it appears that he had an interview with Charlamagne the God from the Breakfast Club. And if I'm understanding this right, and please correct me in the comments out there if I'm wrong, but what it looks like is happening, Charlamagne the God was having a conversation with Joe Biden, and then at some point in the conversation, I believe what happened is Joe Biden was making the comment that if you don't understand the difference between him and Donald Trump, you are not black.
Yeah. Wow. I actually did see that. I saw that. I wasn't sure if it was his soundbite or if somebody was, you know, I don't know what's fake news, what's real news, but I did see that. Wow.
Yeah, that was something. I don't, again, like you said, I don't know if that's real news. I would hope that it's not. That could be a death blow to his campaign.
Are you offended by that? Are you what's your take on that?
I'm not offended, but only because I don't really care about Joe Biden one way or the other. So it's just, I just saw it and I'm kind of like, wow, you know, just if anybody had said something that crazy, I was like, wow. But I did also see that I heard, I don't know if this is true, that Donald Trump set up a website around that specific comment. I can't remember what he called it, but it's like youaintblack.com or something like that.
Oh, wow. Nah, man, I'm out the loop.
So I had to check into that and see if that's a real thing. But that was kind of taken aback a little bit by that one. It's interesting.
Wow. I mean, let's talk about that for a hot second. So I think I saw, you know, so What's your take? Dig in a little deeper. What's your take? What was he saying? What was he trying to say?
You know, I feel like it kind of goes back to that whole thing about where people feel like you have to be a Democrat if you're black. You know, obviously that's not exactly what he was saying, but I feel like it ties to that sentiment. It's like, if you're black, you need to be a Democrat. You know, how could you be anything else? And that's kind of how I look at that.
Or was he saying, because I saw it, like, was he saying, you're black, Donald Trump ain't for you. Why would you even consider any of this if you black? You know Donald Trump ain't got your best interest at heart.
Yeah, I can see that too. I can see that. I definitely think that's part of what he was trying to say. Is that offensive to you as a black man?
No, not really. Not really. See, I don't think we've ever had the Donald Trump conversation. I don't think we've ever had the conversation. See, for me, prior to the calling out of Obama's birth certificate, I was good with Donald Trump. Like The Apprentice, being a real estate mogul, you know, keep bouncing back from these bankruptcies, multi-millionaire. I mean, Donald Trump was on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Snoop had hung out with him. People were good with Donald Trump. I was cool with Trump. I know he had some spotty past, you know, and spotty is being polite about it, but prior to all that, I was cool with Trump. You know, so I don't want to get in too deep, but I have not really spoken out just like saying, oh, Donald Trump don't like black people. I know what he did with the Central Park 5. I know about the ad. That was bogus. You know, I know his pops got some racial discrimination tendencies. I know he has some racial discrimination tendencies, but I have yet to throw Donald Trump away totally. I just don't think. I think he says some really crazy stuff. So no, I wasn't necessarily taken back by it. I'm not saying I'm for Donald Trump. I'm not saying I'm saying that Donald Trump is bad for black people. I don't know.
The other thing that I saw out there about this, I think it's good to talk about, is some people were getting upset about being told what it means to be black once again. And they took the comment that way. It's like, oh, you're telling me what it means to be black. And again, out there, we don't know if he said it. We got to check into it, but we're just talking hypothetically. If he did say that, I can see that. It's like, don't try to tell me how to be black, or if I'm making a decision, I'm not black. If you know, especially if you're not black.
No, that's
kind of problematic. And then I think about this. It's like, say you and I were talking, and you told me, "Hey, this is what I think you need to do to be black." We would probably have a problem with it coming from one another.
Right.
Much less somebody who's non-black. So it's kind of a complicated.
That makes me wonder. That definitely will put me at I'd be looking at him side eye, man, for sure. Like, bro, you ain't. Yeah, that angle, absolutely. You ain't in no position to tell nobody what it means to be black.
Exactly. So I'm gonna check into that when we're done and see what's really good about that on that. But that was a notable news topic this week. I wanted to get your thoughts on. It seems like some of these cities out here, even Chicago, gradually are moving towards reopening a little bit. How you feeling about that? I think some of the southern states are opening up a little bit more, maybe like Georgia. I want to say Tennessee, maybe. Yeah. But what do you think about Chicago opening up a little more?
So here, this is very interesting. I'm still kind of on the fence about this, but when I look at before I answer that question, I mean, what do I think about it? I'm unsure. Somebody even brought to my attention whether or not the COVID pandemic is real. I think I can accept that. I can accept that maybe it's not as bad as we think. Maybe it's not, all this wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
Two parts. Like, I do wonder what the cases or infections or deaths would have been like had we not gone into this quarantine, right? I wonder about that. But at the same time, I wonder, Eric, like, percentage wise, when you look at number of infections and deaths compared to the U.S. population, I'm only talking U.S. I can do a world population too. Percentage wise, it almost doesn't seem like it's that big of a threat. I don't want to sound insensitive because I know people have had family members to be infected by it and to even die from it. I know I've had a couple of people die from it who both had underlying health issues, right? But when I look at statistics and percentage wise, it almost seems like we're safe. The vast majority of humans on the planet seem to be safe, right? And so I do take a page out of the young people's book. And I remember we were talking about the kids that had the party on the west side of Chicago. Like, I'm still kind of on that fence. Like, maybe my older age has just forced me into this hyper protective, hypersensitive state. And the media, I've said this out of my mouth, the media has done a number on our mental by forcing this story on us. There hasn't been a day that hasn't gone by since March, probably 13th, I think was the day. Maybe it was March 14th. There hasn't been one day to go by that I have not mentioned something related to this pandemic. Not one day.
Totally.
There's a part of me that feels like we're good. Like, statistically, we're good. But I've been subdued. I've been brainwashed a little bit by the media and what's happening here. So that's kind of where I am. It's like, I think we good, but I've been duped. I've kind of been duped, man.
I agree with you. It would have been nice to see what the numbers would have been if we didn't quarantine. And definitely I can understand what you're saying about, is this just a media kind of blowing this out of proportion, or are we really, really at risk? Are we good and it just doesn't feel like it due to how we've been influenced? I've tried to research these things, but it's so vast, it's kind of hard to get my hands around it. But I understand that. And so it looks like Chicago Illinois has a 5-step plan. I think Chicago has a similar plan. I think we're approaching phase number 3, if I understand it correctly.
Right.
Now my barber sent out a communication to a bunch of us this weekend or Friday saying, I'm about to be open back up for shop on June 1st. You can come get a haircut. I went and did a COVID certification and all that.
Really?
And my initial reaction in the Facebook post was like, you know what I mean? Like, I need to come get that cut because I'm still got the wild haircuts going.
Right.
But I thought about it. I'm like, whoa. I mean, that's good that he's able to open up, and I know him. He's very professional. I'm sure he has certification. But am I ready to go sit in the barbershop? Like, I'm sure they'll have minimum requirements for how many people can be in there. But still, am I really ready for that?
Man, it is sad. That's the part that has me kind of messed up by, like, I hate that I feel the anxiety. I have anxiety about going back. I'm 6 feet. I'm tripping. I'm the guy that's tripping in the store a little bit. So I don't know, man. My son asked me. I haven't really seen my son. We FaceTime every day since the pandemic. But I haven't, and he's actually, I went over there a couple of times, over to his mom's a couple of times, but it was like I was in the car, he was at the porch. I took him some food one time. He came over one time. We were outside, but we were 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I hate that I feel that way. You know, I want to go have, I want to have a backyard barbecue, man. I want the people to come over. I want to sit around and, you know, drink some lemonade or whatever we drink and enjoy. But yeah, man, kind of been. I got to get out of my own head, man, about it, man. It's messed up. It's really kind of messed up.
Trying to stay optimistic. Hopefully, we reach the phase 3, however they've defined it, and keep it moving, man. Hopefully, by fall we'll be at a stage 4, and you know, hopefully get to a point where we can resume our normal lives. You know, in the next couple of months at least.
And that's the other thing. They're saying, like, get ready for another wave because flu season is coming back for sure.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know, Eric, man. I don't know, E. I don't know, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So on a lighter note, what you been watching? What were you watching on TV this week?
Well, I started watching Ozark.
Oh, that's my show.
I started watching.
You just started it?
Just started it.
That is my show, Big Stu. Really? That is my show, man. Man, I love that show. Jason Bateman.
I'm over kind of starting these series, but you know, it's a cool one. I'm here for it. Ozark. There's another one. It's not a series, but I watched the movie Molly's Game.
Okay, that's an older movie, right?
I don't know when it came out. Maybe I'm not sure, but that was a really good one.
Okay, I don't know if
Molly's Game. And then the one that I binge watched over the weekend was on Becoming a God in Central Florida.
Another good one.
Your recommendation.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been watching. What about you? What you been watching?
I started, so I'm a series guy. I don't like watching individual movies like that. I always want to watch a series. So I had finished watching For Life because they had the season finale. And then I started trying to find something else. Like I was like, I got to find another show because I try to always have at least one show, you know, that I can dig into it, you know, at any given time. So I started digging around through HBO. And I thought about watching The Wire again because I was just scrambling for something to watch. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I thought about watching The Sopranos. So I'm scrambling. I'm looking for stuff. So I found this show finally called In Treatment. In Treatment is about this psychologist. I think he lives in New York or whatever. He's about 50 years old. And it basically, the series is like each episode is his session with his client. And so they do it on a recurring basis. So say he has 4 clients, you get to see him talking to those clients week to week. Very good show. Very interesting. Like, I don't think it would have been as interesting if they didn't take it week to week. So they'll be like Jason week 1.
Yeah.
And they'll do the next person. And then they go back around again, week 2. So you get to see the progression.
Wow.
But then come to find out the therapist. And peace and blessings to all the therapists out there. You know, we love and respect you. But this dude here, he's crazy. But he also has some issues that he's trying to work through, and he's trying to find some help. Very interesting. So if you got HBO a la carte or cable, check out In Treatment. It's pretty good.
The therapist needs a therapist. The doctor needs a doctor. The preacher needs a preacher.
Yeah.
The teacher needs a teacher.
Coach needs a coach. Man. Yeah.
Let me back up real quick because one of the shows, the 50 Cent show, what's it called?
For Life. Yeah.
So you mentioned it to me last week. I said I hadn't seen it. I went back and checked it out. And let me tell you, I had seen it. I think that show is trash. I think I stopped watching it. That's why I was like, nah. I was like, this show is trash. Trash,
so
man.
Tell me a little bit about that. What made you feel like it was trash?
It's not going anywhere to me. It's like they dragging out the fact that he can't get his record to prove his innocence. And they just keep dragging. Like, I don't understand why they don't just give him. He's entitled to his record. Give it to him. It's public. Like, are you kidding me? Like,
yeah.
So I get the corruption, but nah, that should have been handled in like the first 2 court scenes. Like, why y'all still dragging out that he, and now he still got to So he's always going. It's like this storyline is like I'm over it. Like so he's going to keep doing these cases for people inside, keep leveraging that, and can't get his. No, I'm over it. I'm over it. I'm over it.
Yeah,
so
I will say this. I think that's a fair point. I love the show, but I will say this: when I'm watching it, I am also like, yo, I mean, can we get to the point where he gets it and we go to the, you know what I mean? Like I need him to get, as the person watching, it's like I need him to get that pretty soon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we definitely can't do that in season 2.
Nah, man, that's whack. That's whack. And I'm the guy. I'm a movie buff. I'm a TV buff. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, man, when TV was super new and super influential, kind of embedded in the family. Everything was around the TV, right? So I judge these shows, man, and I judge them by if I can tell the storyline, I think it's trash. If I can figure it out early, I think it's trash. I need storylines that are unpredictable, is how I describe them. So predictable storylines. Okay. I don't care the movie. I don't stay in tune to it. So
yeah, I'm surprised because like I don't typically watch jail type shows, but it did grab me. Now it makes me think about this other show. I wonder if you watched this back in the day. Remember Oz?
Absolutely.
That was a wild show, man. A prison show. That was wild.
That was crazy. They did some.
I had to stop watching it at that time because it was too much male nudity for me.
Yeah, man. I mean? Yeah.
But I feel like in the first couple of seasons, it was very, very interesting. I really liked it. But it was like, okay, y'all doing way
too much, right?
Yeah. I couldn't do it. I remember they had Lord Jamar on there one time.
Yeah.
He was on there. I just, I was like, okay, I think I might have to transition. And I love Lord Jamar, but on that particular situation, I didn't like that. So
yeah. That was a crazy show.
So you all out there, you're watching the Money Sex Gen X podcast. This is episode number 7. Myself, Big Stu. This is our season finale.
Well, we are coming back for season 2. Let them know that.
We're definitely coming back. We're going to take a little bit of time off and see how we can continue to push the envelope and push the show forward. But like we talked about last week, definitely streaming on all major platforms. And we're getting quite a few downloads. So I think people are liking the content. So that's good. Now, back to this Showtime show. I want to dive into this because it ties into our main topic for today. How to be a god in Central Florida.
Tell us about it.
Man, I don't even know if I could do this one any justice. So this is a show that I fell upon. Like I just was looking around again, doing a lull. I didn't have a show to watch. I went on HBO. I think I had Showtime a la carte, and I was looking. So I found this. And the reason why I explored it is because I do like Kirsten Dunst. Most of you all out there are probably familiar with her, so she's in there. And so I started watching it, and it immediately grabbed me because the premise of the show was something that I've never really seen in a television show. So let me run down the premise. Let me see if I can do it some justice. So you got the 2 main characters, which are Travis and Crystal Stubbs. They're married. They live in Orlando, Florida. They have sort of humdrum jobs or whatever. They're trying to make it. They got a couple of kids and all that. And at some point, Travis, who is the husband, he joins a multi-level marketing company called FAM, F-A-M. And he becomes completely immersed in this culture of FAM. And FAM is structured like most multi-level marketing companies. I think they're selling like household items or whatever. And he's out here trying to make it happen every day, trying to recruit more people to his team, which they refer to as a downline. So anybody who has familiarity out there with a multi-level marketing company, you have your downline, which are the people you've recruited, and then you're the upline. You're like the leader of the team. And so Travis, he was an alcoholic at one point. He found FAM, and it gave him a sense of purpose. And so his wife, Crystal, who is Kirsten Dunst, she's trying to support her husband, but then at the same time, she's trying to get him to be like, why are you doing this? And can we do something else? And then at a certain point in the show, something very tragic happens, and it turns the whole show upside down. And what you'll see, I'm not going to tell the show, but what you will see is that her involvement in fam completely shifts, completely. So that's How to Be a God in Central Florida. I was immediately drawn in because I've had participation one time in an MLM structured company. And I was like, wow, they're really trying to dig into this. You know, I'd never seen that before. What were your thoughts about this show?
Yeah, man. So I thought it was good. I had never heard of it. Again, it was a storyline that I wasn't sure what was going to happen at any point. It always took me for a loop. I too have participated in multi-level marketing programs. I was introduced to them in the 80s. And did you mention that this was set in kind of the 80s? It was set in the 80s.
I think that's a good thing to point out. Yeah, it's set in the 80s. Yeah, it's
set in the 80s when MLM was like popping, right? Become a Millionaire was popping. Everybody could be a millionaire.
Yeah.
I still wasn't sure where it was going. I was really surprised by the ending, and I will not give it away, will not spoil it, but I was really surprised at the ending. And I thought it really hit on some key points about whether or not multi-level marketing programs are hurting entrepreneurs, or whether or not there's money to be made, how real it is, who makes the money. It really had me questioning a lot of those elements of MLM.
Yeah, same here. It really made me think about why I had at that time decided to join a company that had an MLM structure. And we're gonna dive into this more when we get to the main topic for the day. But it made me think about a lot because I was looking at him and I looked at how much he was into it. You know, like this has become his whole life, and it had that key element that you always see. It was like, should you quit your job and do this full time and all of that a lot of people have experienced out here. So I feel like they did a really good job of making me think about my own experience in the situation. But where it took me to more permanently is this conversation about group economics. Group economics. And I don't know if we talk about that enough as a culture in the United States. We do talk about MLMs and we talk about these sort of companies sometimes. We will get to that. But do we talk about group economics enough? And really, what does that mean? How would you describe group economics?
Yeah, so cooperative economics as something that I pay attention to is one of the Kwanzaa principles, but keep it, keep that dollar circulating amongst your community. That's what group economics is, like keeping the dollar circulating and growing the dollar within the community is how I see it. It's how I define it.
Okay. Now you define it in the same manner that I probably would have defined it before I did a lot of research this week because I was like, I'm asking myself, do you understand what group economics is? Or are you just saying, thinking? And what I found is you and I are in the same boat. When we hear the term, we automatically think of it in relation to Black people. Automatically. But it's a concept outside of just one particular race. And I know you know that, and I know that, but I think when we immediately think about it and talk about it, we talk about it in relation to Black people specifically. And would you agree with that? Yeah.
It's our experience. I'm basing it on my
So I would agree. So I'm with you on that. Now I want to expand this conversation though and talk about where do we see group economics at play in our everyday lives though? Because it's not just Black people, right? So like if you had to go off the top of your head and give me an example of group economics that just deals with people, what would come to mind?
A credit union.
Okay, perfect example. Perfect example.
The one I just asked you about, and just and I don't know if you're ready to go here, but like a susu.
Susu, yeah, we definitely.
Anything, a community center.
A community
I might
solution.
consider group economics, but
Okay.
definitely one. I think it's definitely money. It's about money. It's about capital.
Okay.
It's about investing and growing capital is how I see it. How do you define it?
So I've updated my definition of it. I think, and that's what I love about what you and I do is like I'm understanding that I thought some of my understandings of concepts are outdated. I believe.
Okay,
This
all right,
one of them, right?
Good point.
So
Good point.
so I know I'm personally refreshing some of my conceptual understandings of things. How I would define it now is real simple: a group of people coming together for an economic benefit. A group of people coming together for economic benefit.
So give me an example.
So let's use some examples, right? So how about a real estate co-op?
Okay.
That would be one example. So instead of you owning your individual units of the real estate like you would with a condo, everybody owns a percentage of the entire property as a whole.
Yeah.
So you got 100 units. So the common thing you see is, okay, Eric's going to buy his unit. He's done. And then we'll share the common elements. But in a co-op, everybody has a percentage of that entire pie of 100 units. So that's one example.
Okay.
Another example is a group insurance policy.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So I started getting really deep into this. I'm like, okay, let's push it a little bit. Now, somebody out there might be like, well, how is a group insurance policy a form of group economics? What are you talking about?
Well, that makes sense. I get it, but explain it. I understand it.
Okay, so how I'm looking at that is, again, you're pooling your resources with a group of people for an economic benefit. You know, a life insurance policy, you're looking for a payout if the risk that you were trying to avoid is realized. You know, you get sick, you die, you lose, whatever it is. But the concept is you're doing it with somebody else versus doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
Another example, let me know how you feel about this. A mutual fund.
Okay. All right.
Is a mutual fund an example of group economics to you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
So I agree. I think a mutual fund is absolutely, because you're pooling your resources with other investors to purchase things, right?
Yeah.
Group economics. Now, I want to bring this up because this is something that I was personally involved in. There's a company that was started in Chicago called E.G. Wood, and I was part of the startup phase for this. And that's a perfect example of modern day group economics, because what's happening is a piece of real estate was purchased on 63rd Street, and it's going to house multiple entrepreneurs in one space. So say, I think it's 10 entrepreneurs, one building, the land was purchased, they're doing construction right now, but each of those entrepreneurs has an owner, is going to pay rent, they're going to pay the lease and all of that, collectively pay a lease, but they all have a percentage of ownership in the entity.
Okay.
E.G. Wood. So those of you who are in the Chicagoland area, go to egwood.com or .org, whatever it is. But that's a perfect example of group economics today, using real estate and entrepreneurship in tandem with one another.
All right.
I don't want to beat this to death, but let's talk about.
Wait. Well, let me ask you a question. I know. Let me ask you a question. Let me back up. Why did you ever get involved in a multi-level? Why did you ever get involved in cooperative economics? And back in whenever you did it, why did you get involved? Why did you participate in that group economic system that was probably called a pyramid or an MLM?
That's a good question, and I thought about that as I was watching the show. So that show, How to Be a God in Central Florida, what it showed me is you know why? Because they tapped into my emotions.
What was the emotion? Was it a specific one, or what was the emotion?
The emotion was excitement.
Because I know what it was for me too. I mean, and maybe mine, obviously ours weren't the same. You said yours was excitement. Mine was, this is an easy way to get rich. They're talking like get rich, man. You want some money, you want to make that was the pitch. You want to make some extra money immediately. It's easy. You want to make an extra $600, $800 a month. Extra, you can make up to $20,000. You can make as much as you want. It's easy. We have a system for you, and if I can do it, you can do it.
You know what? You just said a word that this is another way that they drew me in. That word is one of my favorite words in business. System. System. So it was the system.
I got a system for you.
It was the opportunity for leadership, and it was the excitement. That's what drew me in. That's the money. The money wasn't necessarily that big of a factor, because like when you think about like this concept of the susu, right?
Yeah,
I've been exposed to that, but I'm a little bit different. Like when I see stuff, my immediate interest is not necessarily the money. It's not necessarily it's more the intangible stuff that I'm looking for. But I understand what you're saying though, because most of the people who have that experience are like, yo, I'm going to get rich. You know, I'm going to join this company. I'm just going to pop off and I'm going to get rich and become very wealthy. So I can identify with that. So,
and that was the premise of FAM on becoming a god in Central Florida.
But how do you feel about this? I will also say though, I feel like that was the premise, but I also feel with the main character, the husband, it was also had to do with the fact that he was an alcoholic at one time and he found a sense of purpose. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would say they did tap into that. It didn't seem like and I don't know if we can have this conversation without giving it totally away, but it didn't seem like the company was a fraud. It didn't seem like it was a fraud. It's just like everybody's going to have different results depending on their connection to whatever it is that they're doing. Even in business, even in your own business, like you got to be excited. You got to be tapped into what you're doing. You got to push it. And if you're not, you're probably not going to have much success.
Absolutely. And see, I think that's the other thing that got me. It's like, I like doing things with other people. I don't like it as much as I used to, but I used to be intrigued with the concept of doing business in a group. Okay. Because I just felt like it was easier. You could get to your destination a lot faster. I don't believe that now.
Not even so I don't want to, I know you got a flow for the show, but what do you think about susus?
That's perfect. Perfect transition. So all my Caribbean people out there and African people from African descent, those are the people who have exposed me to those early on. So those of you out there, if you have ever heard of a susu, and I think some people refer to them as partners, you know, there's a bunch of different names for them. But at the end of the day, what it is like a collective pool of people who are saving together. So what happens is you get a bunch of people, everybody's contributing a certain amount of money every month. And then each month, a couple of those people get a payout. And you know ahead of time when you're going to get your payout. But before you've gotten your payout, you've made these monthly contributions to the susu or the partner, whatever you refer to. But at the end of the day, it is a way to save money and then get a payout probably faster than what you normally would get it. I've had a few clients that have been participants in me. I've seen it go wrong one time, Big Stu, because one time I had a client, she was putting money in the susu, and when it came time for her payout, she didn't get it.
Do you know why she didn't get it?
She didn't get it, from what I understand, because the person who was running the susu, her mother got sick, and she took the money to help deal with the medical situation, and so she was unable to pay out. So I saw that happen. So when I saw that, that kind of soured me on that concept, but I still think it could be a good form of group economics. I don't know. If you're out there in the comments, let us know if you've ever participated in a group savings program like a Susu or Podna, and let us know, like, did you have a good experience with it? Did you think it was trash? I think what a lot of people enjoy about it is not so much the excitement about the savings on a monthly basis. I think what most people get excited about is when they get their sort of big payout. Because I think sometimes people are getting like $1,800 payouts, $2,800, just depending on how many people are involved. But yeah, let us know what your experiences were with that. So that's the Susu. Now, but another example that I've seen of group economics that we don't talk about as much is crowdfunding. So we got a lot of entrepreneurs that say, you know what, I need some startup money. I think I got a really good idea. I'm going to go to the public and I'm going to raise some money for my idea. That is a great example to me of group economics because it's allowing you to get your startup money faster, but you're using the resources of an entire group of people.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on crowdfunding?
I think crowdfunding works if you can tell the right story, appeal to the hearts of consumers. Okay. Appeal to the hearts and mind of consumers. You got a good product, you can tell a great story. Crowdsourcing, crowdfunding works.
Okay.
But you gotta, as with anything that you're trying to sell, you gotta set it up properly. You gotta set it up properly. Anything, no matter what it is.
That's right.
I think it's an excellent platform so long as you set it up. Set it up properly.
What about GoFundMe and using it to pay for burial expenses for people?
Listen here, Eric. Listen here, brother.
Hey, before you answer, that's group economics, right?
It is, but I pray to God, man, that crowdfunding is not needed to bury me, right? Mike Tyler says I tried those programs and they are not effective for many, only a few. Not a good choice in my opinion. Group economics works best with family business endeavors, not people that you don't know. Easy equals more risk.
Easy equals more risk. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, like I kind of agree with him. I have a stewism, that you never do anything for the money, and there's no such thing as easy money, man. There's no such thing as there's no get rich quick. I do not believe in get rich quick at all. I do not believe in get rich quick. Not at all.
Okay. We're on the same page with that. Yeah. Now, in my study of group economics, I know we both follow Dr. Boyce Watkins.
Yep.
Which I think he does a tremendous job of talking about wealth and finance on a day-to-day basis. Not that this means a lot, but I think it means something. He is a PhD in finance. But as he'll tell you himself, more importantly, he is also an entrepreneur and he helps a lot of entrepreneurs. But on his platform, I found out about a man called, his name is Dr. Claude Anderson.
Dr. Anderson, yes.
And Dr. Claude Anderson is somebody I think we all need to know about. He came up with this concept that's based around group economics that is specific to Black people. And that concept is called powernomics. Powernomics.
Yeah, I checked him out. You turned me on to him. I started checking him out. I like the brother. I like what he's talking about. I like his resume. I love the concept of powernomics.
Powernomics. Now I'm one of these types of people. Like, you can tell me about somebody and I'll be like, yeah, whatever. Because I have a short attention span and I'm really not into this, the flavor of the month and all that. But when I found out about Dr. Claude Anderson, he fit one of my criteria to pay attention to him, which was before he became an entrepreneur, he was in the highest levels of politics. So he was in the system, quote unquote, because it's like, how can you tell me to break away from the system if you never participated in it and you don't really understand it per se. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Claude Anderson. So remember Jimmy Carter, President Carter?
Yes.
Dr. Claude Anderson was he was the campaign manager for Jimmy Carter. No, he was the education coordinator. No, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. He was helped Jimmy Carter run his campaign. And then you had another Florida governor named Reuben Askew. And I think all this stuff was like in the late 70s, early 80s. Dr. Claude Anderson was the education coordinator in Florida.
Okay.
For Reuben Askew. So these are two examples of him being at like the highest levels of politics, helping some very high profile people run their campaigns, structure educational programs. And he was very successful at it. And then he went on to be the director of several economic development corporations throughout the United States. And then something interesting that you don't hear a lot about with people in terms of entrepreneurship, he owns and runs a fishery. So I guess he grows fish, and that's what his company does in Maryland. So he
I know that.
Yeah, he has a very successful fishery in Maryland.
Okay.
This is Dr. Claude Anderson. So his take on group economics is like, we need to use group economics to grow and prosper as Black people here in the United States of America. And he came up with 12 steps that he felt like we should use to regain economic power in the United States. And I think some of them are very interesting. I'm not going to go through all 12, but 3 of them that I thought were interesting is that one of them was create an alternative economy within Black communities, establish solid root businesses within Black communities, and this third one I'm going to point out is stop the money drain out of Black communities. So these are 3 of the 12 steps that he has in his Powernomics program. Dr. Claude Anderson, as you can imagine, he is an older gentleman, but he is always, before COVID, he's going around the country. He's giving talks on Powernomics. He's participating in it. And you see him frequently. If you pay attention to Dr. Boyce Watkins, Dr. Claude Anderson is on his show quite frequently. I think he's on there, maybe he might be on there weekly, but I always see videos between those two. And then Dr. Claude Anderson has a book called Powernomics, and then a bunch of other things that he's written on this topic. Now, you said that you didn't know about Dr. Claude Anderson, but did you know about the concept of Powernomics?
Yes. Well, I wasn't familiar with Claude Anderson, but I was familiar with the book. So I'll do better by titles. I don't always do well by authors. So I was familiar with the book Powernomics. I've never read it. Mike Tyler said he read it. It's a great book. But I wasn't familiar with him. I don't think I've ever seen him or heard of him. But I did watch a couple of his videos. And he immediately went to the top of my list of folks that I will listen to about finance, well, specifically about Blacks and economics. He's rose to the top of my list. I shared him out to a couple of very close people, people close to me, to get in front of that conversation. Actually, the people that I shared it to, I shared it with 3 people, and it's my 3 oldest children.
Okay.
And so I shared it with them, like, yeah, y'all got to get in front of this right now. This is a guy to check out. And again, going back to, he's probably late 60s, early 70s, maybe.
Yeah, he's
mid 60s, 70-ish, whatever. And I think that's value. Like, we have to respect the game.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got folks that have been around that long and they have that kind of experience. A couple of presidential campaign managers helping to get people in office, running stuff, have taught at all the levels and received. At some point, you got to sit down and just give credit where credit is due. So he's dope to me, and I'm going to continue to dig into him and understanding Powernomics.
Absolutely. You all are rocking with the Money, Sex, Gen X podcast. This is episode number 7 of our season 1 finale. Thank you for joining today. If you're out there, you can jump on the Facebook Live, dive in those comments like you all have been, and give us your perspectives on multi-level marketing companies, group economics, Powernomics. we're about to transition to our main conversation of the day, which is, are multi-level marketing companies hurting Black entrepreneurship? Are they hurting Black entrepreneurship? So we talked about it in the beginning. I shared that I had joined a financial MLM structured company years ago and had some experiences with it. We talked about the concept of group economics as we see them in everyday society. We transitioned that into powernomics. Now we're going to transition from powernomics. I want to make this statement when we transition. So we're not crazy for having joined a company with that type of structure. Apparently, from what I understand, it's a viable, it can be. Now, I'm not talking about specific companies. I'm going to give some examples of some MLMs in a minute. But the premise of why we joined, it wasn't like we were crazy. It appears that these companies are a viable, when you talk about working as a group, that's a viable strategy as an entrepreneur, right? It's like, how much can I get done by myself? I had enough sense to understand even then, even if I was, at that time I was dealing with insurance, it's like, even if I was the best insurance person in the world, how many policies can you sell by yourself? Now, getting into, was the company that I joined good and was it run well? That's like a whole different conversation, and we will talk about that. But just on its face, great strategy, right? Now, when we say multi-level marketing, the first thing, and I asked my kids about this morning, I said, do you all know what a multi-level marketing company is? And they said, a scam.
Wow, yeah, right, yeah, yep. Is
that the first thing that comes to mind, I wonder, with people when they hear MLM? I believe it is. What do you think?
Yep, absolutely. Again, I know we're talking MLM, but I'm on this susu. I'm about to jump into a susu, and not as a savings, but the kind of the new way to do a susu where it can be passive income. And I ran it by one of my guys and immediately scammed, right? Whether we're talking taking vacation trips, and we know those companies, I did that. Whether you're talking about phone services or hell, whether you're even talking about selling CBD teas and liquid vitamins, you know, whatever is popping right now, it was body wraps and whatever it is. Initially, the first thought is it's a scam. You're not gonna make any money at it. Why is that though, Eric? What's your take on why that is?
Let's act like we're in business school real quick. Let's go back to business school real quick and answer that question. So, thinking about it from the perspective of the company, the company, right? So we got a couple of examples. Let's use Avon.
Great.
Avon and Mary Kay. So my mother sold Avon when I was a shorty, right? Now, thinking about it from the perspective in business terms, we're talking about distribution, right? The company is distributing a product. They have a tremendous advantage because they're using non-salaried workers. They're not salaried, they're not employees, to distribute the product to the consumer directly. Now, why do people think that that's a scam? I think it's because they have heard of some people who had some bad experiences, and so they immediately associate it with something that's somebody's going to try to take advantage of them.
So go ahead. You got more. Go ahead.
What I wanted to say though, and I want to hear your feedback. If you're out there in the comments, I want to know from people out there in the comments, have you actually, and I'm not advocating for or against them at all. In the big community, we're just talking.
Yeah.
I want to know, have you actually been scammed by MLM? You don't have to mention the name, but I just want to know that. And I also want to know, have you been part of an MLM and had a decent experience? And I want to know if you've been part of it and had a bad, a good experience, a really good experience. But back to your question, why I think it's just one of those things where that's what we've been told to think. It's a scam. And there have been scams. There have been scams, right?
Yeah.
I think that bears mentioning too. There are some scams that were out. Remember, and I'm not casting any judgment. I don't know all the details, but remember this company called 5 Links?
Yeah, that's the phone service. Yes, I remember 5 Links.
Phone service. Okay, I don't know if they, whatever they were or whatever, but I just know I heard a lot of chatter about things that were unsavory. I don't know if it was true. 5 Links is an example of, you know, so it's like, if you were in 5 Links and it went poorly, when you hear the next one, are you going to immediately be like, nah, it's a scam?
Right. Well, here's my take. And this is what I got in the TV show on becoming a god in Central Florida. And by the way, Mike Tyler says he's heard from a lot of people with various bad experiences, not just some. But here's where I think people get in trouble. You buy into it's sold as you can make some immediate money now. You can make some money now,
right?
And then so you get hooked into that. Okay, I'm excited. Maybe it's not about the money, but I'm only talking about people who are doing it for the money. Because this is where I believe you have the disconnect. Because it's not immediately you're going to make some money. And so when you realize that, it's like, it's a scam. They told me I was going to make some money immediately if I did these things. I did these things. It was more difficult than I thought.
Okay.
I didn't make any money. This is a scam.
Okay.
Right? Okay. That's what I believe. So
which
I
is the fair point.
I don't mind saying I did World Ventures and I did I believe it was called Tea Light Candles or Candlelight and World Ventures.
Okay.
Neither one of them were scams to me. I saw the money that could be made if you put in the work. If you put in the work, you was gonna make the money.
Okay, that's a fair point. I appreciate you sharing that experience. I'm going to share mine too, but before I do that, so we have an intern for the show named Crystal.
Shout out to Crystal.
Yes, peace and blessings to Crystal. Crystal did some research, and I picked through it, but it was one of the things that she pointed out to us is that a lot of people have said that there are a lot of myths and truths in network marketing, but many people avoid them based on misinformation. Legitimate MLMs are not illegal pyramid schemes and don't require you to use or hassle people. I think that's a good point to make. But she also pointed out that the reality of the MLM is that big money is rare. And it's not to say that you're not going to be able to make money, but just from statistics, and I'm going to get into some of the stats, but it's like most people don't ever make a lot of money with that structure. They just don't from what we've seen. But most MLMs have the same type of structure like we've been talking about. So you have a company, they're distributing a product. They use non-salaried people to do that. And then here's the key, and this is the thing that I think a lot of people are weary of. Now think about this. If you were an attorney, for example, and you were sitting down with your client and you were giving your client legal advice, and then at the end of that session, your client says to you, hey, I want to recruit you to be an attorney on my team. How would that make you feel? Or if you were a doctor, or even an accountant. Say you were sitting down with your accountant and you went through your session, and at the end he's like, hey, I want you to join me on my accountant team. I want you to be an accountant. How would you feel? Would it take you aback a little bit? Would you be like, okay, yeah, what do I have to do? How would you feel about that? And I thought about that as I was processing why people have the problem, because it's like, I might respect what you're doing, but when you cross that line of trying to bring me into what you do, it starts to get a little bit shaky at that point. It's like, why are you trying to bring me into your profession when you know I'm doing something else?
Yeah. And do you have an answer?
I just feel like the answer is why do people do that? So I spent a lot of time personally doing that, right? In one of the financial companies. What I found was it's nothing illegal about it, but what I realized is some people aren't suited for the financial industry. That's the bigger problem. I think it's a problem. It's problematic just the fact that I'm asking you to do it with me when you're in another profession. But even in that, I've only found a small amount of people in my entire career. I don't recruit anymore. But back then when I was doing that, I would say 5% of the people had the psychology to be in the financial industry. And that's the bigger problem, because it's like the bar is so low. You're trying to go to any and everybody from your network and try to get them in this company. And I think that's a tough model to try to use. So out of that 100 people, you might find one, but you've alienated 99 people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what creates a problem for some people.
So I like that direction that you were going in, because that has been the number one reason why I stopped doing the programs that I was in, because I was always working on my business. And I felt like I was taking my time, energy, and resources away from my business to push this other agenda.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I only have a limited amount of time in a day, and I only have my circle of influence. If I want to get people together, I want it to be for my product. Like I don't want to waste people's time, if you will, or something that I don't necessarily 100% believe in, because I'm still kind of learning this thing. I don't know if it's really, I haven't experienced the success that they are saying that comes along with this. So I would rather just focus on my stuff and build my business.
Yeah, I get that.
So to your question, like, does it hurt Black entrepreneurship? I'm gonna start off this argument, and I don't know if this is mine, but I'm gonna share this perspective. Maybe not. Maybe for folks who know they want to run their own business and want some experience, maybe an MLM is an excellent opportunity at learning how to run business. And that's what I feel like was one of the takeaways on Becoming a God in Central Florida. She didn't know business. The wife didn't know business. She learned business. She learned a lot of lessons about business, a lot of unsavory lessons, but business is cutthroat. That was the one line that stuck out for me from all 10 episodes. Business is cutthroat.
Yeah.
Business can be cutthroat. And you'll learn that running your own business. I have a couple of comments here. Mike Tyler again. Mike Tyler says, thanks, Doc. That is the truth. It starts to take away from your craft to fund another upline or downline. Does not work for everyone, just a few. And Shanette Coleman, there is no such thing as fast money. With every adventure, hours must be invested. I work at an investment banking firm for Wall Street. On average, they work 65 hours a week. And she says, that is low. This takes strong work ethic. Shout out to Shanette and Mike Tyler for keeping these comments popping. You there with me?
I am. Yeah. Thank you for those comments. That's good feedback. Yeah. And I really thought about for myself when I was in that situation, did I learn? So in this conversation, what I wanted to stay away from was this whole concept of Black people need to do this and we need to do that. I think we hear enough about what we're not doing and all that. I don't really want to deal with that. I want to stay on the topic at hand, which is two things: Blackness and entrepreneurship. And is this sort of model conducive to you being a better entrepreneur, or is it hurting you? Is it hurting you in any way? And I thought about myself. So I thought about, and I want to get your thoughts on this. What did you actually learn? What skills did you walk away with when you finished that experience? And I'm going to tell you what I walked away with. I walked away with the ability to pitch a client.
Yeah.
I walked away with the ability to coach a client.
Okay.
And I walked away with the ability to map out my revenue.
Okay.
Now,
coach a client, map out revenue. Okay.
Yes. Now, and I also walked out with better leadership skills because, think about this. You probably would agree. Most people are not suited for the financial industry. So in order to get any type of results, you have to really dig deep in your soul to try to get a group of people who are really not suited for this, get them to see the bigger picture, really the group economics aspect of what you're doing, try to leverage their network to get some results. So that was extremely difficult. And so I became a better leader in that process because I understand psychology a lot better as it relates to business. I just do. And I also got to travel to some cool places. I should point that out. I went to some places at that time that I wouldn't have ordinarily gone by myself, I don't think. Just because, not that I wasn't traveling, but there were cities and countries it's like, yeah, I might go. But because I was down with that, I went. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, this city is really hot. I'll give you an example. I went to Hawaii.
Okay.
I would have never, I thought Hawaii was whack, boring, corny, all that. And I went to Hawaii and was blown away.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, it opened my eyes to a couple of things. Now, I'm not going to name the company I was with, but I am going to say this. Here's some of the ones that we talk about a lot in pop culture, MLMs. Amway, remember Amway?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Avon,
yeah.
Mary Kay, Primerica,
yeah.
World Financial Group,
yeah.
PHP, ACN.
Yeah.
Somebody got me in an ACN meeting one time, and they got me in there, but I didn't, I wasn't with it. But ACN, I don't know anything about the company, but whatever. And then one that I hear about now that I hear a lot of good stuff about is Legal Shield.
Really?
Legal Shield. Yeah. I don't know if it's good or not. I've never been a client, but I haven't necessarily heard anything negative about Legal.
Been around forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Sure.
All of those companies. Yeah, none of them ever. I know how difficult it is. And some of those companies where you talk like a PHP trying to sell people, trying to convince people they need life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't cut from that cloth. I'm not cut from that cloth. Like, I don't want to have to convince anybody that they need it. I'm already working on convincing the folks that have identified that they need something to purchase. I don't want to have to try to convince somebody that they need something they don't even recognize that they need it. That's terrible.
Absolutely. But what's interesting, Big Stu, is like, I agree with you on that, but it's like that's done to us all the time. And I'm not saying this in defense of MLMs.
Sure.
I could care less, but how did you get convinced to buy that last pair of Jordans that you got? You know what I mean? Like, I bought some Jordans right before the COVID thing, right? They were a lot of money. How did that psychology go? I didn't need them. So why is it so off-putting when somebody does it to try to get you to make some money, but when you're a consumer, somebody's doing that to you all the time? But that's okay. Did you need that Gucci? Did you need that Gucci belt? Did you need that Louis, purse or bag or whatever? And I'm not judging. We say this on every show. This is no judgment.
Yeah, no
but you
judgment.
didn't need the Louis bag, did you? Or maybe you did. The Gucci belt, the Jordans, the polo hat, the jacket. Like, did you really need that? Somebody convinced you at some point that you needed that specific version of that product. I could just have a no-name cap on, but I feel like I got to have a low hat. You know what I mean? It's like, where did that psychology come from? Somebody did a good job on me to make me feel like that's the specific hat that I needed to have.
Well, this goes back to almost episode 1 Are you a millennial? And we talked a little bit about the psychology of money. Maybe it wasn't episode 1, but I feel like it was episode 1. We were talking about our own psychology and money and how we relation with money.
Yes.
And that ties into who we are as Gen Xers today, because we still carry a lot of those childhood values into our adulthood. Now, the hope is that, because I want to put some resolve around this conversation and give some actionables. The hope is that our priorities have shifted in a way that makes us more fiscally responsible, right? So a lot of those times as a youngster, I was influenced to make certain purchases by social factors, like what my peers were doing or what seemed socially acceptable, right? Or what seemed like it would increase my personal value, right? Which I had to learn, obviously, that has what you buy. What are these conspicuous goods have nothing to do with who you are as a man or a woman, as an individual. But yeah, right. Like Mike Tyler says, my chain is shinier than your chain, kind of mentality.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's what, but today I think I'm doing it in the same way, but it's like trying to get to a point of, having conversations of what did you invest in this week? Where did you put money this week? Where did you invest? Where did you grow money? How much income did your business make? How's your real estate portfolio doing? How's your, investment portfolio doing? Those are the conversations that are important today. I just wish they were important at 21 as well,
Yeah.
So we would have this longer, which is something that you always talk about in your industry. The longer you have to invest, the greater the end game is. Sure. For those who take advantage at that early age.
That's right.
And so I'm saying we all are trying to, and it's not necessarily get rich, because rich looks a lot different to me today than it used to, but we're all trying to create legacy, right? We want to make sure that hopefully we don't have to crowdfund for the funeral. And if you did, it's no big thing. I've contributed to it plenty of times in my family and outside of my family. You want to make sure that you can pass more down than just debt.
Yeah.
And how do we do it? So if it's a multi-level marketing program, what I'm saying is just know you're going to have to work. If it's your own business, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have to work in order to see the fruits of your labor. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's a brilliant point to make. And I would add on to that and say, well, like we always do in every episode, let's frame this up with some stats a little bit, okay? So I'm always shocked when we do the research. Now, we always come into this, like, we have to look at the source. So I was looking at this, AARP did a study on MLM participation in the United States in 2016. That's where I pulled this data from. But it said that 20.5 million Americans participated in MLMs in 2016. And that participation generated $36.12 billion in sales revenue. Okay? Thought that was something to think about.
That's excellent.
That's excellent. Now, here's something that surprised me, though. This is surprising, though, now, what I'm about to read. It said also in the study that MLM participants tended to be well-educated, married, also working as a paid employee, like the guy Travis from the show, and living in a house owned by a person in their house. Well-educated, married, working as a paid employee, living in a house that they or someone in their house owned. Now, here's the thing that really shocked me. Maybe that wasn't that shocking to everybody, but here's what really shocked me. When they broke down the race of the MLM participants, people who are in MLMs, 63% of the people were white, 13% were black, 17% were Hispanic. And ages 20 to 39 is the largest block of the people who were in MLM. So people between the ages of 20 and 39 years old. And then the final stat that I'm going to drop here is 24.7% of the people say that they made a profit. 27.3% say that they broke even. And 47% said they lost money. Wow. Wow.
Did you drop the mic? That was your drop the mic sound?
I was about to drop the mic. Wow. Almost 50% of the people say they lost money.
Come on, man. That's
Wow.
Those stats are amazing. I love those stats. Those stats are a mirror of America.
Okay.
That's almost, but those stats are favorable. So now I got to look at MLMs again because those stats are in favor of people who participate. Shit, 70 to 80% of Americans are broke.
Right.
So you said 50.
No, go ahead.
47% of people, MLM participants, lost money. So 53% of them, I better be looking at some MLMs.
That's what I'm saying. Because when I say wow, I'm saying that's a large percentage of people. How many people you know that went into business and then the business failed? So this is saying 25% of the people made a profit. That's a lot.
That's huge.
That's a lot.
Huge.
And apparently, many of these people are supposed to be what we consider highly educated, meaning they have a bunch of degrees and all that stuff. But But one thing that did surprise me, I didn't think that 63% of the people in MLMs were white.
Oh yeah, I see it all the time.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Makes perfect sense.
I think ACN is an example of one that there's a lot of, white people that I saw, but I don't have a lot of experience with them, but that wasn't what I saw in my limited experience. But, I don't have but like one or two experiences that I can kind of draw from. So yeah, that's how, we try to frame it up with the stats. So where I want to go now is I want to get your thoughts on. So if we're saying that this is a viable, possibly way of doing business, is there an opportunity cost involved? So in finance, we talk about this concept of opportunity cost, which is basically like, am I losing out money somewhere else by doing this? And what I want to know is like, if you're going to work as an entrepreneur and be in an MLM, is your time potentially better spent over here? Say you're in the financial industry and you're doing it. Is it better to do the MLM version of the insurance company or go on your own and do it? Or go, I guess, the traditional, well, you're not an entrepreneur if you go the employee route. We're just talking about entrepreneurship. But would it be better to go by yourself and start out or start it in the MLM structure? What do you think?
I'm still thinking, and I did not have this opinion prior to today's conversation. As a result of today's conversation so far, I'm saying it would behoove you to go the MLM route.
Okay.
Save yourself a ton of money because the cost of entry is low compared to trying to do for self.
Yes, that is a great point. I wrote that down. The cost of entry and the barrier for entry. So it's like typically if you have these large investment firms, for example, they only recruit a specific type of person. So if you don't have the MBA and all this other stuff, they might not even mess with you because they don't even mess with you as a client really, unless you have a certain amount of money. So to your point, you could come in this structure and maybe you get a fair chance to even explore the industry where you wouldn't somewhere else. And then you can do it for a low cost.
I think so. Now, I'm not going to abandon any of my businesses to necessarily get behind an MLM today. But I do participate in when I support my lady, she does an MLM TLC.
Okay.
Which I kind of like. I like TLC. The products make sense and they're not hassling you. So I'm on her team and I'm on her quasi team. I just support. I use the products. I support. I tell folks, I just advertise for it, if you will.
What's the name of it again?
TLC, Total Life Changes.
Okay.
They have the NutriBurst liquid vitamins and this Shaga tea, this CBD tea. They're not trying to sell it here, but yeah, there's an opportunity for folks to participate, whatever industry they're in. If there's a realized, proven MLM structure, it might be advantageous to take advantage of that. Mike Tyler says, my dad always said, if you don't know what you want to do in life, someone will employ you to continue what they want you to do in life. Work for yourself via your craft. Because when you do what you love, the money will automatically come. I believe that. Great discussions for the finale, brothers. And he has to jump off. He had to jump off. He'll holler at us later. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been enjoying this conversation. I want to make a quick point as we wrap up. I feel like if you are out there and you think that an MLM might be a good option for you, one thing from my experience, what I would think about is set a low bar in terms of leadership, because that's where I think most people get upset. I've seen people get upset about the money, but I've seen more people get upset when they don't feel like they got the leadership that they needed to move their business forward. And I think you have to kind of manage your expectations with that, because a lot of these people, they're still learning how to be leaders themselves. And so as upsetting as it might be, I wouldn't go in with those high expectations. I would try to seek out somebody in the organization that maybe is a good leader. But it might not be the person who recruited you in. It might, but I've seen where more times than not, it's not that person. And so people get upset, they get frustrated, and then a lot of times people just go ahead and quit. But to our earlier point, when they quit, I don't see where they've gone to a similar industry. They're just done with the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So to your point, they probably didn't love this in the first place. Mm-hmm. They were just trying to make money.
And if money is your leading motivation, if you are only in it for the money,
yeah,
my personal opinion is you are in for a headache.
You're in for a headache.
Because money will have you out here chasing a bone.
Yeah.
Down the street in your underwear.
That's right.
That cannot be the number one reason that you do anything, in my most humblest opinion. It cannot be, I'm doing this because I can make some money. Like, I'm doing this because I like doing it. I'm doing it because I don't mind doing it. I do it because I enjoy doing it. Oh yeah, and I get to make a little money while I do it. I can accept that. But come over here because you're going to make a lot of money and I'm ringing your phone. No, sir. No, sir.
Now we're talking to, we as a people, we're still on the come up in terms of wealth. So even though I agree with what you're saying, I'm also thinking about like, that's hard to swallow for a group of people like ourselves that are still trying to amass some level of decent wealth in this country.
Well, I agree with you. And I don't come from money. Hell, I don't have any money right now. But wealth, which is why it's wealth, is different from rich. Wealth is not just about the cash. Wealth is also about peace of mind in your life, that health and finances and enjoying life adds to the wealth scale, the wealth monitor, how wealthy you are. So if you just want to get rich, you just want to make some money, there's people out here cracking cars and they got $3,000 and they consider themselves rich.
Yes.
we are. This conversation is for the folks that are clearly focused on moving beyond that level of understanding when it comes to our financial responsibility to ourselves and to our family.
No doubt. No doubt. That's very well stated. Yeah, I agree with that. And as we kind of wrap this up, I want to get your final thoughts on this. So we attempted to explore these concepts today and kind of frame them around MLM and is it hurting the Black community? So if you had to say yes or no, is it hurting Black community in your opinion or not?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I support MLMs. I think they're a great way to strengthen business acumen. It's a great place to cut your teeth. It's a great place to make a name for yourself. It's a great way to learn how to deal with people, I think MLMs are great. Okay. I think they're great. So thumbs up to MLMs.
Okay. I'm going to say the same. Prior to the conversation, I felt like they were hurting entrepreneurship. But and that's what I love about the show. I've expanded my own perspective, and I believe that, hey, like you said, an MLM is a great place to cut your teeth. I do think you need to manage your expectations. Yeah. Don't go in trying to get rich, but go in and try to figure out what skills can you develop. And I think it could be a great experience as long as there's a low investment. That you think it's got to be a quality product or quality products, right?
Yeah.
And you're not don't alienate your friends and family with the approach. I think it could be a good first entry into business or even a midpoint entry for some people.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100% agree. So we solved it. I think we answered it for us.
We answered it.
But two Gen Xers, two well-respected, educated, articulate Gen Xers, Black men. We've answered that question because I'm like you. Prior to you even suggesting this as a topic, I wasn't fucking with MLMs. I'm over that shit. That's wasted time. But I thank goodness that I was able to watch that series on Showtime on being a god in Central Florida. They gave me a great perspective. My own experiences, I had to reflect on it. I think they have helped me. And I have changed my opinions about MLMs as a result of today's thoughtful and curated conversation. So thank you to you, man, for a banging season finale, man. That's great, man.
Yeah, man, this has been fun. And I really want to thank you for being my partner in this. I think we've covered some really groundbreaking topics. Maybe they're topics that people have talked about, but I think we've tried to talk about them differently and on different perspectives. And I think we did a pretty good job of that for seven episodes. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Great job, man.
Okay, cool. Well, hey, this has been the Money Sex Gen X podcast. We're going to get out of here. We are wrapping for season 1. Check with us back again in July. I think we're going to come back up in July, we said, with season 2. We're going to be looking for a lot of people that can come on as guests. If you got any topics you want us to discuss, let us know. And we will see you soon. Peace.
Peace.
Sex, love, and money.